Hello there. My name is Brian and I am today's guest on the YouTube channel of Jacob Lenhoff. Jacob approached me on Facebook about being on his channel, and when he found out I was interested in film production, he sent me a list of questions very specific to that subject. Just in case a family member or employer sees this, I have checked out enough of Jacob's channel that it seems to be an okay place to post. I don't think I'm getting involved in anything seditious or salacious. So anyway, yeah, just that little disclaimer there. My opinions are mine only, and the rest of Jacob's content is Jacob's business. But I'm happy to help him grow his audience as best I can. All right, so the question of film production, my dreams of being a director, and the questions that Jacob wants me to answer. Question 1, how did I get into filmmaking? Even before I was a teenager, I was interested in films. Of course, my family went to the movie theater like anybody else. I saw E.T. on its first run in theaters. I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. It didn't take long for me to start paying attention to the things I saw going on and asking myself, how did they do that? And then start to hear things. I remember hearing somewhere, well, I started to hear it many places, one of the greatest films of all time, Citizen Kane. I remember renting that when I was barely a teenager, which was way too young, by the way. When you're just 12 or 13, that's a long, slow, boring movie, and you have no idea why it's significant to the history of filmmaking. But all of that led up to the day that my dad bought our first home video camera, VHS. Back when they were these big boxy things, you had to rest it on your shoulder, you got a workout just trying to film the family vacation. And I quickly fell in love with it. I was using it more than anyone else in the family. My dad had to ask me where it was instead of me asking them if I could use it. So it really has just, it's just always been a part of me. And, wow, that's a loud one. The world of film really has just always interested me as far back as I can remember, and it really became my thing when my dad brought home the equipment to make it at all possible. Obviously, it was very amateur back then, but that's what got me hooked, absolutely hooked. I knew by the time I was, see, I don't remember exactly when he bought it, but I can say with certainty I knew by the time I was 14 what I wanted to do with my life, and that was to direct films. The first thing I ever directed, that is a tough question. It depends on what you describe as directing, because very early on in owning that video camera, or having my parents own it and me use it, I was getting my friends over saying, hey, we got this new camera, and you know, video cameras back then were rare. Not everybody had them. And so I was one of the special kids in this way, and all my friends were happy to join in. The first thing we ever did was we literally set up the camera and went, hey, let's do this. And it's absolutely goofy stuff. Us dancing around the basement of my house, no plot, no script, no nothing. I guess technically I directed that, but I would say the first deliberate effort where we actually thought to ourselves, hey, we should tell a story, was my friend thought of this. He was a big Doctor Who fan, and apparently there's something, I don't know if it's involved in that or if it just inspired him, but he came up with this title, The Obelisk of Power. And there were about 4 or 5 of us. We were all from various planets landing on Earth to try to find this thing, this you know, obelisk, which was in reality nothing more than my piano metronome. But whoever could get it first would have all the power in the universe. We didn't script it, but we did sit down and go, well, here's what we should do next. And so I think that would be my first actual directing. What memories do I have? Well, right now they're painful ones. If I were to get that out and watch it again, I would probably just want to burst into flames, especially if anybody else wanted to sit in the room and watch it with me, because it was such nonsense, and the plot was bad, and the acting was bad, and the editing was bad, and it was all bad. But it was, you know, it was what we were. It's what we had. It was all new. Nobody had computer editing systems like Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere. I had a camera and a VCR, and we would load each shot in order. For us at the time, it was an adventure. It was a massive learning experience. Obviously, everybody starts somewhere, and it technically is part of who I am today. But if it ever leaks onto the internet, I am never running for president. A type of actor that is hardest to cast, well, I'm trying to think now, because in terms of projects where I've actually had a casting process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there have been 7 in my life where it's been a video/film project and I've had to cast people. I think the hardest part for me is finding people willing to be outgoing enough. I like, and I don't remember, this might be spoiling a future question, but I like things that are a little more outlandish, a little more fantastical. Even if it's set in the real world, there's a magical character in it. And so finding those people who can be just a little bit, you know, above and beyond a normal human being. They know how to put a big expression on their face. They know how to be mysterious or sneaky. I'm sure that if I had the budget, there are people down in Hollywood who could easily fit the bill. But right now I'm a nobody, and everything I've made so far has been on my money, with a little help from friends. And so it's all been volunteer in the acting department, which means I've had to, you know, get local, get friends. They aren't even actors necessarily by trade. And so getting those people who can come out of their shell. So it's not really a role, it's just a personality type that's hard to find. I got really excited with this next question. I thought it was, what is your favorite film? And then I read the whole thing. That's what is the favorite, basically, project that I've directed? They've all been fun in their own ways. My first official short film was Dessert, 5 minutes long, for the Videomaker magazine, 2008, 5-minute movie contest. And maybe that was my favorite, because it was the first time in my life that I put out a casting notice to total strangers. I put it on Craigslist. I said, I'm looking for 6 kids and an adult. Here's the plot, and here's what I want to do with it. Had to audition people, and then make it. Everything went pretty well. I'm really quite proud of it to this day. The acting, the music, the editing, the camera angles, all of the people who came out to be on crew. We had about a dozen people behind the camera, which was a totally new experience to me and very exciting that people wanted to help in that way. And then we got 3rd place. 3rd place out of over 175 entries that year to the Videomaker magazine contest. And so I think just to answer the question, I will say that was my favorite. Is there a movie star I would love to cast? Yes, I have a sizable wish list. Who's at the top? See, wrangling for top honors would be Maggie Smith, Simon Pegg. Oh, I'm trying to think. But I think the one who fascinates me the most is Jim Broadbent. And that's not a name most people are aware of. Now, if I say he was Harold Ziedler in Moulin Rouge by Baz Luhrmann, you'll go, oh, okay. But I remember seeing him all the way back in the 80s in this cameo appearance, a very minor role, in Time Bandits by Terry Gilliam. And this person on the screen was so bizarre that I had to read the credits and find out who it was. And I saw the name Jim Broadbent. And of course, I was just a teenager. That didn't really mean anything to me. The fact that he had such a small role said to me, I'm never going to see this guy again. And then he turned up in Brazil, also by Terry Gilliam. And then over time, I discovered this man is, in his own quiet way, really quite in demand, at least over in Britain. He's very rarely been the headliner. He was a leading role in Iris. He had the significant role in Moulin Rouge. I don't know if he was supporting, but it was a significant role. And And he's been in some prominent things. He was the professor in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by Walden Media about a decade or so ago. But most of the time, he's off to the side, playing somebody a little quirky, a little different. He seems to be very unafraid as well. You know, he's allowed himself to be made very ugly and unappealing, like in Douglas McGrath's Nicholas Nickleby. And then he can be very pleasant and charming and endearing. I would love to have the budget and the script and the clout to call up his agent and say, I want to work with Jim. As far as the genre of project, right now, especially on no budget, it's kind of whatever story I can find or think of. Is there a short story I can adapt? Do I have a simple idea of myself that I can shoot locally with minimal set building, just permission from somebody who owns a piece of property or a house? I think one of the key elements for me, though, is humor. I've done that for the stage. We have a community theater, and I've directed The Matchmaker and Harvey and You Can't Take It With You and The Odd Couple, and all of these things are funny, and they have quirky characters in them. I guess that would be another element that I want in my film is I don't want to deal with completely real personalities that you can find in your neighborhood. Somebody in that film needs to be a little bit off the wall, whether he's actually got magical powers or he's a little bit loopy. Something's got to be unique that way. So for right now, I don't really have a genre. I just want it to have a streak of humor running through it. If I ever get the budget, definitely fantastical. It can be totally fantastical, like Lord of the Rings, or it can be set in the real world, but there's a magical character in it. I think of, what books have I enjoyed? The Mysterious Benedict Society, although Disney already got their hands on that. I just saw one called The Portable Door, and it's set in the real world, but there's one building in the middle of London where there's a bunch of magic going on. That was kind of fun. So yeah, when somebody's ready to hand me several $1 million, my films will involve a magical element to it. They will. The genre will be fantasy adventure. A particular actor or actress in one of my projects. So we're still not asking about my favorite films and my favorite actors. We're asking about my projects. Rachel Deegan in Dessert was a blast, and I actually wrote the script for Dessert and her character as this woman in the neighborhood who may or may not be a witch who eats children for dinner on Halloween. I wrote it with her in mind, and I really hoped she said yes, because if she hadn't said yes, I don't know who I would have cast. But she said yes, and she was perfect. She was absolutely perfect. I knew she would be, and we had a lot of good laughs getting that made. I'd say I have 2 projects that I'm working on now. It's been almost, this is embarrassing, it's been almost 10 years since I shot the footage for my 5th short film called Men with Guns. And ever since then, I've just been busy. There's always something that has taken priority, like a job. But I'm edging ever closer to getting Men with Guns actually done. That will be my 5th short film. What I'm gearing up for right now, and I won't go into all the details of how this happened, but I will say I never expected it to happen. I'm gearing up for a documentary about men's health and fitness, and that's actually why I'm out here jogging today, and why I thought, well, while I've got the camera out, let me record Jacob's request, which is long overdue. He asked me, gosh, a couple weeks ago, and I said, oh, sure, I'll get right on that. So here I am. Yeah, I was just finishing up a jog, and I thought, let's get this on camera. A documentary about men's health and fitness, but not like Pumping Iron or The Perfect Physique or Generation Iron, where they're following someone else. I'm actually crafting this to be a training video, of training film, 2 hours, maybe 2.5, where if you're a man who wants to get in shape, you've been a couch potato, or you're just rail thin, whatever, you want to get in better shape, you want your heart and lungs working better, you want, you don't have to, but maybe you want to add some muscle and look pretty good, this will train you to do that. My goal is to create this documentary and / training film hybrid, so that by the time you're done, you'll have everything you know to get in better shape. Obviously, it won't have the finer details. I mean, if you want to go win a bodybuilding competition, you will want by your side a trainer and a nutritionist. But my project will get any man started. Any man who follows the information that I pack into these 2.5 hours will make visible changes that his friends can see and go, wow, you're looking good. And inside, his heart and lungs will be better. He'll be able to lift heavier things, run faster before he gets winded and worn out, run further. I want to create this feature-length training film / documentary that will help other men experience the satisfaction that comes from feeling better and the confidence that comes from looking better. I would not have walked up to this camera and done a shirtless interview back in 2008. Jacob could not have paid me to do that. And now here I am just because it's hot and sunny. Yeah, I got to finish up Men with Guns and let the cast and crew actually see it so they know that 10 years ago they didn't waste their time. And then I'm gearing up for the Better Body Starter Kit for Men. With Jacob's permission, I'll put the website across the bottom. We are in the fundraising stage. So if what you've heard intrigues you, I do have a GoFundMe going. You can go there. There's a video specifically crafted to talk about that film, why I'm making it, and what my financial needs are. And if you live in the Oregon area and you're a guy and you work out and you want to be in it as one of my interviewees, I'll take that info too. And finally, who are your favorite filmmakers that influence you and why? That's pretty easy. The first name that I was ever aware of was Tim Burton. I saw his Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1986 on VHS home video, missed it in the theatrical run. And then I did see Beetlejuice in the theaters 4 times, and I think I've seen every other film he's done. Wes Anderson is a more recent inspiration. Everybody was talking about Wes Anderson, so I finally rented The Royal Tenenbaums. And at first I didn't take to Wes, because The Royal Tenenbaums is actually kind of a depressing film. There's humor in it, but everybody in it is depressed and dysfunctional. So it had a bittersweet tone all the way through. But by the time he got to the Grand Budapest Hotel, I was sold. I love his quirky style. The Coen brothers, Terry Gilliam, and then, Edgar Wright. The man is, I don't want to throw this word around, he's the closest thing to a genius in filmmaking that I think I've seen. Everybody talks about Stanley Kubrick. What a boring director. Edgar Wright, when he writes a script, I mean, just his attention to detail and his full use of everything. The man does not waste a line of dialogue or a second of film on something that doesn't need to be there. And that wraps it up. I hope that was interesting for you. I love talking about film. I could go on a lot longer. That doesn't mean everybody listening enjoys the same thing. Hopefully, though, someday, and someday soon, you will be able to go to a movie theater and sit down and the opening credits will roll, and the last thing you'll see before the story begins is directed by Brian Johnson. If you see that, you can say, hey, I knew him when he was this flabby 48-year-old out jogging on a track with no shirt on. It was disgusting.